arguably one of the most life-changing initiatives to have successfully passed in Montana. And I think it's really important that we all take the time, especially right now, to think about what we've done over the past 10 years through Healthy Montana Kids. In 2008, Montanans passed I-155 by 70% to 30%, so an incredible margin of support. They passed Healthy Montana Kids. I-155 combined the CHIP program and Children's Medicaid under the new program, HMK. As you'll hear from today's speakers, the impact of this program is truly remarkable. Over 60,000 children in Montana have been covered as a result of Healthy Montana Kids, and more than half of Montana kids are now covered under HMK. At times like these, it's especially important that we take time to step back and look at what we have accomplished, to celebrate our successes as a state, to celebrate the good decisions that past leaders made that are changing lives today. We can learn from what we've achieved and continue to make these kinds of investments for people of Montana going forward. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, John Morrison. John is one of the leaders who had the tenacity and the vision to create the positive change we are celebrating today. As the founder of the Healthy Montana Kids Initiative, John spearheaded the effort to make the dream of Healthy Montana Kids a reality. John has a long history of working on behalf of Montanans in both their long and short-term health and well-being. As you all know, he served as our state auditor from 2001 to 2008, and then led the creation of HMK, but also Insure Montana and the Montana Health Co-op. He chaired the Health Insurance Committee for the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and the Senior Health Insurance Oversight Trust. And as an attorney here in Helena with Morrison, Sherwood, Wilson, and Diola law firm, John continues to respond to the needs of Montanans by protecting their rights as consumers, as patients, as recipients of health care, and making sure that they're having their rights protected. So thank you, John, for all that you do, and I will hand it over to you.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the 10-year anniversary celebration of Healthy Montana Kids. Until 2009, tens of thousands of Montana kids had no health coverage. They had no way for their parents to pay for a doctor visit or a hospital stay. There were people, thousands of Montana families, who were one childhood medical emergency away from bankruptcy. People who prayed that their son or their daughter would not get sick. I traveled around the state. I met countless families who felt this way and who had this pressure and this stress. And I saw the pressure and the stress and the anxiety on their faces and the tears in their eyes as they talked about this problem. We had efforts every legislative session to try to increase eligibility in the Children's Health Insurance Program and in Medicaid for children. Many of those efforts were led by Mary Caferro, who's going to share a few words with us today as well. Unfortunately, session after session, they met with defeat or ultimately very limited success. 2003 and 2005 sessions, there were bills, I think, to increase the eligibility of the Children's Health Insurance Program to 200% of the federal poverty level from 165%. It was about $30,000 a year for a family of four, combined household income to qualify for CHIP. And Representative Senator Caferro tried, along with other people, to get that increase unsuccessfully in 2003, unsuccessfully in 2005. In 2007, the CHIP program eligibility was increased a little bit to 175% of the federal poverty level. But still, there was great resistance. By 2008, Montanans were really fed up with this situation because it was clear that the majority of Montanans supported broader coverage. And so a group of us got together and we wrote I-155. I-155 created a new storefront for Children's Health Insurance Program and Medicaid called Healthy Montana Kids. Come on in, you guys. This is all about you. And it put CHIP and Children's Medicaid behind that new storefront, Healthy Montana Kids. It increased the CHIP eligibility threshold to 250% of the federal poverty level, and allowed Medicaid to be increased for children up to as much as 185%, creating a sliding scale to maximize the drawdown of federal funds. It eliminated the asset test for children enrollment in these programs. It created a simplified application process, and importantly, it created a new role for enrollment partners, hospitals and schools, and individuals and organizations that could participate in help getting kids signed up. Because one of the problems there was eligible kids that didn't understand what was available to them, and these new enrollment partners were there to do that. So all of this was done without a tax increase. There were existing tax revenue streams coming in through premium tax that were channeled into a special revenue account and drew down lots of federal funds and matching funds that were available to Montana but had been left on the table in the past. Montanans went to the polls in November of 2008 and they passed HMK, as Jenny said, by a margin of 70 to 30. She called it a good margin or a significant margin. I'll call it a landslide because I think that's what it was. But it didn't happen on accident. And I want to do some, I want to recognize some people that were instrumental in getting HMK on the ballot, in campaigning for its passage, and then ultimately people who implemented the program and made a reality. First, I want, however, to recognize that we have some friends with us today from Jefferson School. This is the second grade class of Mrs. Hawkins, who is with us right here, and her assistant, Mrs. Carney, and they've done an excellent job shepherding this group of wonderful young people who happen to be wearing Healthy Montana Kids shirts from 2008. And they're going to take them home with them, and they can wear those as much as they like. I had the enjoyable privilege of watching them play on the playground today with these t-shirts on, and I have to tell you, it warmed my heart. Healthy Montana campaign folks. Our campaign advisor, Doug Mitchell, who's now with the Glacier National Park Foundation. America Dominic Heaton, who was field director for the program. Petition captains, Jamie Newman, Molly Bell, who's with Senator Tester's office now. Jen Hensley, who's here with us today. Bradley Seaman, who's in Missoula. Angie Buckley, Kim Abbott, who's a member of our legislature. All of these people were helping to drive the successful petition circulation that happened in 2008. And there were also lots of other individual group organizations that got involved, like Montana Women's Vote, who helped to collect signatures to make that possible. We had contributors that made a huge difference in 2008, and number one among them was the Children's Defense Fund and Christina Davis. Christina, would you raise your hand, please? The Children's Defense Fund put $25,000 into the campaign, and Christina worked as really a full-time staff person in helping to get I-155 passed. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Montana. We have John Doran with us today, a big supporter of HMK, and ultimately later the administrator that helped implement it and make it a reality at the implementation stage. The Montana Hospital Association, Montana Health Insurance Executive with Allegiance, Dirk Visser personally contributed a lot. Wells Fargo Bank in Montana, Joy Ott stepped up. The SEIU, Service Employees International Union, Stockman's Bank, Glacier Bank. These are just a few of the very large contributors, but there were countless individuals who contributed smaller amounts who all helped to fund the campaign and make it possible. DPHHS folks, there are really too many to mention. I am very grateful that we have a couple of them here today. Mary Dalton, I want you to raise your hand, if you would please. Mary was a tremendous leader of public health services and Medicaid for many years at DPHHS, and was really the captain of the implementation and the reforms that needed to be made after I-155 passed. Kathleen Buckley-Patton, who I dealt with personally a lot back when the program began. Michael Mahoney is here. Michael, I know, has, Michael, where are you? Raise your hand, would you? I know Michael has done a lot to work with fielding customer service requirement needs of the many people who still contact us about their own issues and dealing with Healthy Montana Kids and getting signed up and so forth. Thanks to all the current and former opiate Office of Public Assistance staff at DPHHS who work directly with families to determine their eligibility. This work, of course, continues. Hundreds of external enrollment partners that partnered with DPHHS on outreach and enrollment after the program was launched. Advocates who testified at the state legislature for to open the trap door and let these funds out of the special revenue account and to preserve what the voters passed in 2008. As I said, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Montana for its administration work, and the many families who've been outspoken advocates about the importance of this program. Thank you all for being here. We've got a number of speakers who I think will shed more light on the value of this program. I'd like to begin by introducing Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney. Lieutenant Governor Cooney has been a strong advocate for expanding access to health care, especially for the littlest Montanans, throughout his time in public service. And as many of you may remember, he was Executive Director of Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies for 6 years, working on behalf of Montana mothers to improve the quality and reach of public education related to prenatal and infant care. As Lieutenant Governor, Mike Cooney has worked alongside Governor Bullock to champion the expansion of Medicaid, the single most useful tool in increasing access to health care for many of our most vulnerable kids. And there's no doubt that Lieutenant Governor Cooney will continue to advocate for the health and livelihood of Montana working families and their children in the years to come.
You know, I really appreciate having the opportunity to come and join you today. And for these special guests that we have up here, I just want to assure you, there will be cake at the end of the tunnel, okay? We got cake coming, all right. Just wanted to settle them down. No, you're doing great, thank you. You know, today is a great day. The 10th anniversary of the Healthy Montana Kids program. It's truly amazing to me that it's been 10 years since this life-changing program was launched. And I say life-changing because of all the lives this program has impacted. It's quite possible that some of these young people here today weren't even born when this program was adopted. There might be parents here today who didn't live in Montana 10 years ago or didn't have children at the time. There may be some folks who only recently learned of Healthy Montana Kids. We're in a different place 10 years ago. But on the other hand, there's many people here today who know the history. They know the efforts at the legislature, at the ballot initiative, and the extensive efforts to implement this program. But no matter what the story is, we're here for a reason. There is a common bond that links us all. And that common link is all children deserve health coverage. Parents deserve the peace of mind knowing that if their child gets sick, they'll be able to get the care they need and not wait until the situation becomes an emergency. It really comes down to the little things. A child can't focus on schoolwork if they have a toothache. And if a child doesn't have access to health care, they're not going to be able to go to the dentist. Things can spiral out of control. In fact, as I thought about my remarks today, I pulled up an article from September of 2009. It was a Billings Gazette opinion piece with the headline, "Montana Steps Up to Help Cover Children." That's got to be one of the best headlines ever. And it's true, Montana did step up for the children in this state, and we continue to do so. Montana does take care of its own. So celebrations like this are really important. It honors the work of those who put in the hours to ensure this program would become a reality. And it helps promote the program for those who may not be aware. There's multiple benefits. So John Morrison, thank you. Thank you for leading the charge on this very important program. And I want to thank everyone. John mentioned many, and there were thousands of people who made this happen. I want to say thank you for doing what you did to bring us to this 10-year celebration. And I want to say thanks to each and every one of you to be here to celebrate with us and our very important guests of the day. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Cooney. Before our next speaker, I want to just share a couple of factoids. This really isn't a day about data. This is a day about celebration of the spirit of Healthy Montana Kids. But I did a little research as this celebration was looming to find out about what some of the results have been in regards to Healthy Montana Kids. When we were trying to pass this initiative in 2008, we were talking about the possibility of covering 30 or 35,000 kids. This chart behind me shows the enrollment since Healthy Montana Kids initiative in 2008 was passed and Healthy Montana Kids as a storefront was created. 60,000 additional children have been covered. What was even more amazing to me is that almost 60% of all the children in Montana received their health coverage through Healthy Montana Kids. And that's really something to celebrate. The blessings of Healthy Montana Kids, though, have gone beyond just the number of kids who've been covered. We have brought, since 2009, almost $700 million, soon to be more than $700 million, of federal matching funds into our communities. And that's a pretty good piece of economic development business as well. So our next speaker is from Senator Tester's staff, Robin Madison. You have a letter to read from Senator Tester. Thank you.
So good. Greetings from the United States Senate. Thank you all to the providers, the legislators, the families, and all who celebrate this important day. Making sure Montanans' children are healthy is one of the most important things we can do. Today, Healthy Montana Kids plays a critical role in keeping our communities whole. 24,000 children are covered, and that's thanks to a large part to the folks that are here today. We must remain vigilant. In 2017, folks in Washington, D.C. tried to put this program at risk, provided uncertainty for many Montana families. I was proud to co-sponsor the KIDS Act that reauthorized CHIP through 2027. Our fight is not over. Recently, the White House indicated their desire to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act provides a safety net to thousands of Montanans through coverage, programming, and economic support. As your senator, I promise to fight back. Healthy Montana Kids makes a real difference for communities, and as your senator, I will always stand up to make sure it continues helping families and children stay healthy. Thank you again for being here, and enjoy your celebration. Please stay in touch. United States Senator John Tester.
Thank you, you, Robin and Senator Tester. Our next speaker is Bree Oliver. Bree is the Executive Director of Healthy Montana Kids, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies. Also very committed to Healthy Montana Kids, where she dedicates her time focused on the health of Montana's mothers and their babies. Bree is a registered nurse who has focused her career on maternal and child health. She spent 9 years as a public health home visitor and is a mother of 3 children herself and a former Healthy Montana Kids mother.
Thanks to everybody for being here. And my kids had the pleasure of being in Mrs. Hawkins' room too, so hey friends. So I thought today I would share my personal Healthy Montana Kids story. So after the 2008 recession, my family was in a really difficult financial situation. We were living in Bend, Oregon. I was pregnant, working part-time as a public health nurse for the county, and my kids' dad, Ryan, was a commercial real estate broker. Deals were not closing, and my family's stability was in jeopardy. Because of this, we decided to move back to Montana to raise our kids because it was easier to find work. My parents were in Helena, and we could be better able to live within our means. My dad, Buck, gave Ryan a job at State Farm, and we moved back home to Helena. We were working middle class, making enough money to pay rent and buy food, but not enough to afford health insurance or quality child care. This is a very difficult place for lower earning middle class people. We made too much money to qualify for many of the social programs aimed at building well-being, stability, and self-sufficiency, but we didn't make enough money to keep our family insured or quality, affordable child care. Thankfully, though, for Healthy Montana Kids, they came to our rescue. The income level and qualifications was fair, and we qualified. Over the next several years, we had 1 more child. Ryan went to nursing school, and I moved forward in my career. During this transition into financial stability, we always knew that no matter what, our kids' health care was taken care of. When my middle daughter was 3, she required a life-changing surgery to help her breathing, eating, and sleeping. Healthy Montana Kids covered her health care needs 100%. Not only did we get to watch our daughter's health and happiness transform after her surgery, but it also allowed me as her mother to take care of her health while maintaining our ability to afford our basic needs. It gave me so much comfort as a mother of 3 young children to know that no matter what, I could access health care for my kids. This is because of Healthy Montana Kids. My kids now are 10, 8, and 6. They're vibrant and healthy and happy. They're up to date on all of their well child checks, screenings, and immunizations. And as a family, we no longer need Healthy Montana Kids. It served us during a period of critical vulnerability, and for that, I will always be grateful. My kids' health was cared for by Healthy Montana Kids. So thank you so much.
Bree, thank you very much, and I know from the many emails and conversations that I've had with HMK parents that stories like yours are told all over Montana, and thank you for sharing yours. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to introduce 2 of the people who are particularly special to me, who spent themselves as much time as anybody with the petitions in their hands and other campaign materials back in 2008. That's my wife, Kathy Wright, and my mother, Sharon Morrison. Next, we're going to hear from Marie Matthews, who is State Medicaid Director, DPHHS. She's been with DPHHS for over 20 years and has been very involved in the whole implementation of Healthy Montana Kids and the expansion of enrollment in Medicaid and CHIP for children in Montana through HMK. We're very grateful to you, Marie, and the people on your teams for all you have done over the years. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. have been fortunate to work at the Department of Public Health and Human Services for over 20 years. So I'm thankful to have been able to support the implementation of Healthy Montana Kids. Over the last 10 years, I've had the honor of working with many people who helped make today possible. Many of these HMK champions within the department have retired, but there's a few that deserve special recognition. Ms. Mary Dalton, who served as our Montana Medicaid director for many years. Jackie Forba, Catherine Buckley-Platt, Michael Mahoney, and previous director Anna White-Surratt. These folks invested a significant amount of time, effort, resources, and heart for the children and families across Montana and ensure the success we see today. The list of people to recognize individually would keep me up here all day, as each and every person that helps a child have a healthier and happier life should be celebrated. So today I will speak in general for those who came before me to make the HMK program what it is today, and for those who currently work in the program. Starting back in 2009, at the time when DPHHS was first launching HMK, the initial goal was to have 100,000 children enrolled in the program, which meant that we had to increase enrollment by 35,000. We had our work cut out for us to identify and enroll 35,000 children in health insurance across Montana. We immediately launched a media campaign to get the word out. Our staff traveled across the state and met with hospital officials, tribal partners, schools, Head Start, provider fairs, carnivals, libraries, and more. We sent our outreach staff to all the places we could think of to help Montanans enroll in this program. It was a huge effort. We traveled to Circle, Sydney, Glendive, Fort Belknap, Great Falls, Billings, Livingston, and many places in between. We worked with hundreds of enrollment partners. These are the people and organizations who have direct contact with the program recipients on a daily basis. They help us explain the program to all of those who might be eligible. There are so many people who really stepped up to help, and today we celebrate them. This was not something that the legislature or DPHHS could accomplish alone. And of course, we want to give a call out to Blue Cross Blue Shield and thank them for their service. I also need to mention the efforts of the workers in the offices of public assistance all across the state. These folks have daily contact with Montanans to help determine eligibility and find resources for their individual needs. Still, it took time to reach that goal of 100,000 children, but day by day and year by year, through much teamwork, that goal was accomplished in 2013. I could go on and on about HMK. But if you think about it, what's most important to know about HMK is it gives our children a great start in life. It supports their health. We're talking about well-child checkups, vaccinations, dental visits, hearing screenings, eye exams, and eyeglasses. It pays for the emergency services and hospital stays that we all hope no child has to endure. These are the building blocks of health for all children, and they should be available to all children. Today, 128,000 Montanans do have this care because of the Healthy Montana Kids program. I am honored to be here today, and I want to thank all of those that have come before me to make this program what it is, and all of those who will come after to make it what it will be tomorrow. And last, I'd like to give a special call out to all of the members of the Montana legislature who continue to fight for the children and low-income Montanans across the state to help make sure that they have access to health care.
One of the dangers of starting to recognize individuals is that you inevitably forget somebody, and I'm sure that we've forgotten people, but Marie, I'm very glad you mentioned Jackie Forba because I had not mentioned her before, and she was a tremendous partner in this project early on, and really grateful to her. I also want to recognize Richard Miltenberger, who's with us today, who was a financial supporter. He and his partner of I-155. He is the brain father and co-founder and CEO of the Montana Health Co-op. So thank you, Richard. Our next speaker barely needs an introduction. She is one of the most important advocates for underserved Montanans in our state. She has been in the legislature for over 14 years. She has been on the battlefront of every legislative initiative to try to protect the most vulnerable people in Montana. Those efforts to expand CHIP and Medicaid eligibility in the first decade of this century were either led by her at the tip of the spear or her working with other people. She is a champion of Medicaid, a champion of Healthy Montana Kids, a champion of the Children's Health Insurance Program, and all of these important safety net programs. She was one of the co-sponsors of Medicaid expansion a few years ago for particularly extending much of this kind of coverage success that we saw for children to adults. That has resulted in so many uninsured adults in Montana receiving coverage as well. So thank you, Mary Caferro, and I hope you'll share a couple words on this.
I go back to the 90s when CHIP was CHIP, not HMK, and was being discussed in the legislature. I want to tell you kids a story because one of the ways that this pilot project started was because of kids. What happened was there was a big committee full of legislators, adults in suits, and some kids reeled in a wheelbarrow that was heaped with postcards. And the postcards were from all over the state. And the postcards said, "We need health care." They're from kids and parents and grandparents and teachers. And so those kids wheeled in the wheelbarrow, and that was really cool to see that many postcards and to see children being involved. But the funny part was they took that wheelbarrow and they dumped it out. Right there in the middle of the committee room. Nobody told them to do that, but they did. And then the other thing is before this initiative passed, we had one of the highest rate of uninsured children in the state. And one of the illustrations of that, do you know where Townsend is? Do you know where Townsend is? One of the illustrations of our high uninsured rate for children was you could take children and line them up from Helena to Townsend, holding hands, and all of those children, 26 miles, illustrated that. That was the picture of how many children didn't have insurance in Montana. And that's why I'm so grateful. I mean, this initiative was put together so well, and the campaign was put together so well. Thank you, John. I mean, really, thank you. And now we have the lowest uninsured rate, thanks to efforts like HMK and Medicaid expansion, the lowest uninsured rate in history. But I want to talk to you about my own story, too. I raised 4 children on my own, and thanks to the efforts of all the people mentioned, including Mary Knoll, a good, strong Department of Health and Human Services, Senator Baucus, Senator Tester, Senator Williams, people have changed the discussion about CHIP, and this is how. I am on the subcommittee for Health and Human Services for the budget, and it's no longer a fight to expand or to have CHIP or to preserve CHIP now. Everybody, Republicans and Democrats, it's status quo, it's totally normalized. We just have to have CHIP. Nobody questions it anymore, and it's amazing to see where we came from, where we started, and where we are today. And I am so grateful that my children, and now my grandchildren, have access to Healthy Montana Kids. I took my daughter, 2-year-old daughter, to the doctor, and she had a burned leg. She burned it with hot water. And I was alone, and I could not take care of that leg on my own. So the Dr. Gunderson at Helen Pediatric Clinic said, you can come here every day that you need to change the dressing and we will help you through that. And they did. And then she also said, and you know what? You should apply for HMK. I had no idea that I just didn't know. And I was so grateful for that support. And my children are a good product of a good healthcare system, thanks to all of the support of all of you and all of the champions I've talked about. Thank you.
So just one other thing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.